Well, hey guys and gals, live well, die broke. Now that sounds like the rallying cry for someone living life large in the fast lane, living for the moment and, no thought of the future, right? Well, it sounded that way to me. However, maybe I am in for a surprise. Live well, die broke. It's a book by a guy who he actually makes his living as a financial advisor. Hi everyone, I'm Andy Asher. I'm editor over here at bloomerboomer.com. Now, live well, die broke. It is not what you usually hear from people who manage other people's money for a living. It's not the kind of let's say the sound sage advice that my dad had told me, or the words of the traditional financially conservative financial advisors. But to my surprise, it is indeed the advice of one you are going to meet in just a moment. Live well, die broke. Now, I'm going to ask author Tony Walker all about that, what it means, where it came from. But in a moment, if you are new here to Boomer TV, it's in its fourth season now of these are our CNN style interview format shows. And if you want to be part of this amazing journey with the Boomer community, you can like us and follow us on your favorite social media, where we live stream everything. It's going to be live streamed now on Facebook and YouTube, on Twitter, Twitch. That's my favorite because I'm kind of a gamer, but you can ignore that if you want. It's on Instagram and on the website at bloomerboomer.com. So live well, die broke. And its author, Tony Walker. Remember, too, I love marmalade. Well, live well, die broke, author Tony Walker. Great having you here today. How are you doing these days? Tell me all about that, Tony.
Yeah, I'm in Kentucky today as we speak, Andy. I'm doing well. And by the way, our governor in Kentucky is Andy Beshear. We've been hearing a lot from him with all the coronavirus. So I've heard the name Andy quite a bit here.
Yeah, governors are sort of on the focus these days, so you get to know your governor real well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we sure do. So, but yeah, I'm in our Louisville offices today. And as you mentioned, I am a full-time financial advisor. I have offices in Bowling Green, Kentucky, home of the Corvette, Louisville and Lexington, Kentucky. Been in the business about 36 years, and just excited to talk to you more about this book that did hit #1 bestseller on Amazon just after its release on February 28th, and excited to share with you my thoughts
Oh,
on it.
congratulations! What's the home of the Corvette?
Bowling Green, Kentucky. That's where they manufacture the Corvette. A lot of people don't know that.
I did not know that. Well, we would get way off tangent here, but I saw a few on the road, and they look a lot different than they used to look. So,
Oh, they sure do. Yeah.
well, listen, I am dying to hear, how you approach your job. It sounds, to me, it sounds kind of like refreshing advice, but I'm just not sure if others in the profession would say so. I know you have a reason for it, and it certainly caught my attention. So you did well with the title, but tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, thank you, Andy. Yeah, so keep in mind the majority of our clients are basically retired or nearing retirement. And I've done this for, as I said, over 36 years. I see a lot of people. I have a television show that's on in about 7 stations in Kentucky on radio. I've done it for years. So I do have a fairly large clientele, and I'm not trying to be braggadocious, but with that said, I have been able to watch literally thousands of people's lives play out. So on the one hand, I have a TV show and I write books and all that, but 24/7, I'm also talking to people who are retired and I'm watching them spend their money. And what I've noticed over the years, Andy, I'm afraid a lot of people wait too long to spend it. So I like to say this isn't your granddad's retirement. I like to talk about my granddad who in 1978 retired from Bell South after 43 years of kind of humping it with Bell South. And back in those days, Andy, they promised you if you kept your nose clean, they'd pay you a pension. So I watched him live a very nice lifestyle, but very meager, quite frankly. I lived in a small town just outside Lexington. And at the age of 63 at that time, he drew his pension and he lived on that happily ever after. Didn't have a lot of money, but he never ran out of money. And then when he finally passed away, his Social Security and his pension, he called it mailbox money, they both died with him. And really, the only thing he had left was a small house there in Troy, Kentucky. But sometimes I look back and hearken to those days and watch how he enjoyed his money with very little worry, no stock market risk, no 401k plans back there. He wasn't trying to hoard a bunch of money because he couldn't. And what I remember about my grandfather is he never, ever worried about money,
What
something
a
I'm seeing
change.
more
Yeah.
people worry about today.
That's for sure, and I guess that was sort of the economic model after the end of World War II that lasted quite a while, but it's changed, of course.
Yeah, and I think, but I think about that and I say, well, why has it changed? I think it's changed to some degree. And again, I'm a fiduciary. I'm a registered investment advisor, and we do work with Wall Street on occasion. But I think when they pushed out those pensions and brought in those 401k plans, unfortunately, for a lot of what I call the Joe lunch boxes of the world, like my granddad, who don't understand risk, they don't understand money, they were forced to kind of take the lead, invest in these 401ks, and many of them, Andy, when I meet them, they're pretty scared. They don't know what to do with these accounts. They don't know how much money to spend. They don't know if they'll run out of money. These 401ks are laden with taxes. I call it the tax tumor. And, there's a lot of problems out there. And so what happens in fear, I think, these people are afraid to spend their money. And then I watch them become ill. Or I just had a spouse in today. I was filling out death claim paperwork. Her spouse died in his late 60s, and I handed her a book. And she looked at the title and she kind of smiled. She said, I think I know exactly what you're talking about, because she's got plenty of money, but she doesn't have her spouse. And there's a lot of things I think she wished they could have done, but they were afraid to do. And now they can't. You know what I
Well,
mean?
yeah. Well, I'm taking the title of the book at face value for a moment. I was talking to my friend earlier this morning, and I was telling her, who I was interviewing and what I was doing. And when I told her it was live well, die broke, she said that's her philosophy entirely. Now, I, a lot of people feel that way, and good for them if that's
Yeah.
what they
And I think,
believe, right?
oh yeah, and I think keep in mind in the back of the book, I also worry about our next generation. So don't get me wrong. If somebody wants to plan to leave money to the next generation, we can certainly show them how to do that. But I think what I'm finding with people living longer, with a lot of kids and grandkids needing the money now, sometimes I'll convince my clients as they're aging, for instance, to start giving more money to their kids now while it's more tax favorable and when they can use it. And I'd say that to them. I'll say, let me ask you something. In a perfect world, if you lived 30 years, never gave your kids money, and died, and they're standing around your coffin and they get $500,000, would that be better? Or would it be better while you're alive and can watch them enjoying it while they need it, give them $10,000 now for the next 30 years? And most people deep down would say, well, I'd never really thought about it that way. But again, Andy, they're very frightened. They're scared to spend money. The financial world does not want you taking that money away. That's how they get paid. So what happens is the poor old Joe Lunchbox out there, the saver, is kind of left to their own, and I think really doesn't have any good game plans in place. And that's what we try to help them do: use and enjoy the money, and then we can show them how to not run out of money and enjoy it while they can. That's the whole point.
Well, I know you believe that we should use and enjoy our money while we can, without fearing it will one day we'll run out of it. It would be nice, but other than make believe, guaranteed income, we all live in fear. Really, of running out of money for one reason or another. Unless we're maybe in a certain level, but don't you agree that that is a constant fear of running out?
Yeah, and if you look at the greatest fear of seniors, many of them fear running out of money more than they do death. That has been statistically proven. So we figured out, with the proper products and the proper structure, we structure products, certain investments, so that people have the flexibility to use and enjoy that money at a stage in life where they really can. Maybe they're able to travel and things like that, or they're still with their spouse and all that type of thing. But then as they get older, we put part of that money in a different type of product that provides that guaranteed income, just like my granddad enjoyed with his pension. So you're able to do that, but you're generally not going to get that kind of advice from a Wall Street advisor, because they're generally positioning that money solely for growth and income. The problem is there's no guarantees behind that money.
Yes, that's true. And then of course we talk about for the average wage earner, the middle class. Don't we have to find many things? It seems to me that we find a lot of things are kind of stacked against us. Are we really financially well off? Most people just aren't making, it seems, the income to achieve that. It sort of goes maybe back to the constant discussion of the 1%, and and everyone else is struggling to just cover their expenses. I know that I paint that in kind of a dismal way, but in some cases that is a reality of life.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So with longevity and people living longer and without those guarantees built in and just the higher cost of living, I think about my granddad and to be fair to this generation that's dealing with healthcare costs and stuff, when he retired from Bell South, he had free health insurance. You think about that, that's a huge deal. And back in those days, I kid around about it, but as an employee, he got free long distance coverage. You remember with long distance, how expensive it was in the 70s and 80s to make a phone call. So really, he had such a low key lifestyle. People didn't spend as much money. I mean, other than running by Long John Silver's once a week for some fish and chips, that was about it for him as far as entertainment. So yeah, his lifestyle was different. He had no real health care costs. So yeah, well, let's think about technology. He had an antenna perched on his roof and got free TV. Think of the cost of technology today, cell phones, internet. Now we might say, well, you could do without that, can't you? Well, maybe you can, maybe you can't. So that it is a different world. I agree with you, Andy. And all the more reason, I think, for people to kind of step back and take stock and say, okay, do I have a plan in place that realistically looks at these things we're talking about? And can I make sure that I enjoy my money? And again, make sure I don't run out of it. And I say in most cases, yes, you can with the proper planning.
Yeah, and I was reading the preface of your book, and you and I talked about it a little bit before we went on the air here. And tell us how you were influenced by your grandfather, who did well, and you've also referenced him in our discussion here, but with his approach to saving for retirement.
Yeah, I think it was so easy for him because again, my parents stepped back, but my parents divorced at a young age, so that allowed me in 1970 to spend a lot of time with my granddad. So I did get to kind of watch his life play out. So again, it was pretty easy for him. Remember, all he had to do was spend less than Bell South paid him, and then he knew, guaranteed, when he retired at that age, they told him already how much money he was going to get. So think about the training, intuitively he had. He couldn't spend more than he made. He didn't make a lot of money. So that taught him to live a very frugal lifestyle. Then all of a sudden, the pension and Social Security started. Well, that was the same amount he was making. My mom even kept that original pension statement. I've seen it. And the Social Security. So all he had to do was stop driving to work and just sit at home and collect that mailbox money. It really wasn't much of a stretch versus now there's so many implications and decisions one has to make when they retire, Andy. I mean, that's all I do is try to help people navigate all of these decisions, costs, and issues that come up that granddad never had to worry about.
That's for sure. And of course now investing during COVID-19 is like a new world for everyone. How do we handle that?
Gosh, well, and I tell you what, I'm getting more and more calls. People are really, really worried. Now, I don't know about where you're from, but in Kentucky, and like I said, there's a lot of conservative people here. But I think, this rumblings and talk of digital dollars and going paperless. And I think what's happening now, my concern is because people are just very distrustful of everything. I'm not just pointing fingers, but I think people are almost looking at money and like, and I kind of have to agree with them. Tony, what's this really going to look like in 30 years anyway? And I'm like, that is a really good question. So COVID-19 has exposed, I think, some things, all the stimulus money. And even as somebody that's pretty familiar with economics, it concerns me long term in terms of the value of the dollar and what people really will have to spend, which is, I don't know. That's a good one. I don't know. I have a crystal ball behind me, but it doesn't work. I've tried it.
Yeah, well, I like you're being very forthright because a lot of people in your field might try to, uh, you know, just take a guess at it, a wild stab, and with there are things we don't know. And
Yep.
tell me, for people who want to just know more about you and your book and all that, where can they find out more about you?
Yeah, so I'm the owner of the company. It's called Tony Walker Financial. So the website is TonyWalkerFinancial.com. On there, we've got a lot of blog posts. I've got a podcast of my radio show that shares more about the philosophy of the worry-free retirement and the live well, die broke philosophy. And as well, that TV show called The Worry-Free Retirement. It's a full 30-minute episode. I have my own production company here in Louisville. We do the whole TV show. And then you can go to our YouTube channel. A lot of people like that. You go to youtube.com and you type in Tony Walker Financial, and you can subscribe and watch prior episodes. And so I think it's gone pretty well. We have a pretty large viewership here in Kentucky, and gradually it's kind of expanding as people kind of hear more about the message. And for some people, I think it's resonating, and at least it's all I want to do in my life. I tell Andy, my favorite book as a kid was Artie the Smarty. I've written a book called Don't Follow the Herd. I'm kind of one of those that steps back and just tries to take a realistic look and try to give people other options than might seem popular or the going trends. I think sometimes people do have to be careful of following the herd, and the same concept with live well, die broke. It's just a different way of trying to look at your life and money.
Yeah, and I have a picture here of your book. It's over on Amazon, so that's a convenient place to get it.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. That's right. You can go directly to Amazon or any major bookseller.
Okay. And what different advice would you share for someone investing pre-COVID and investing now? In other words, I don't want to put you on the spot, but things are changing so fast. But the advice that you gave 4 months ago was a whole lot different, maybe, than it is today.
Well, it's funny you say that, and again, I'm not trying to sound braggadocious. It's really not. I take a real conservative approach. I created something called the Worry-Free Retirement Game Plan. I have my own software. So believe it or not, when I'm running retirement income plans for people, we assume that you're not going to make more than about 3% anyway. So we're very conservative in how we invest money. And since we already have money positioned for things like this, we had, of my 2,500 clients, we had very few people that were really rocking and rolling and worried about it, because we've already set the stage that we put parameters, and I kind of call it guardrails around the money. So we had very few people affected by this because we plan for contingencies. And I guess I've been doing it so long, I've been through a lot of stock market corrections. I just know that you don't want to put all your eggs in that basket if you're planning for retirement. That's a pretty dangerous world.
Yeah, indeed, that's true. Hey, as we wrap up, any wisdom as we move forward in these crazy times?
I really do, and maybe this will bring a little humor to that. I know it's a serious topic, but my mother, who, again, my parents divorced at a young age, has never been remarried. She's still alive and well, lives in the same house I grew up in, has very little money, doesn't want any help. She's very financially content, and I go there and have breakfast with her occasionally. I'll spend the night, and every time I get up, she fixes me bacon and eggs. And one morning I got up and I was chewing on some bacon, and she goes, "How's that bacon?" I said, "It's pretty good, Mom." She goes, "Well, it better be. I spent $10 on that." And I said, "Mom, you don't have $10 to spend on bacon." And she says, "Well, I want you to have the best bacon." So one of the chapters in the book, Live Well, Die Broke, is called Life is Too Short to Eat Cheap Bacon. So that's where I'm going to leave it right there.
I really, really like that. I think that is a great way to move forward, and I think I'll put that in my memory bank and use it. That's good. Tony, I want to thank you so much.
Thank you, Andy, for having me.
Well, thank you, Tony. Live Well, Die Broke, and its author, Tony Walker. You can find out more about that book and about us on Facebook, YouTube, and on bloomerboomer.com. And if you like this, well, please like us on Facebook and follow us on your favorite social media. Meantime, so long, and I will see you on the next show. And don't forget, I like marmalade.